We're going to be looking at 5 realistic targets for free agency for the Indiana Fever. We are working under the assumption that these 3 are coming back. Lexi's coming back. Sophie's coming back. That is the assumption that I'm working with. Because if Kelsey goes, then clearly you have...
Working on the assumption. That's the phrase that should terrify Indiana Fever fans right now. Because while everyone's debating whether Kelsey Mitchell stays or goes, there's a bigger question nobody's asking. What happens if the Fever wastes Caitlyn Clark's rookie contract window by bringing back the wrong players?
First player is a backup center. And I think Demiris Dantas' time at the Fever is probably done. I don't see Dantas playing with the Fever again, if I'm being honest. I think Bree Turner's not good enough. I just think in general, Bree Turner is not good enough. So for me, Elizabeth Williams
is 33 years old. She's coming off a disaster season in Chicago, where the sky imploded spectacularly. But here's what the stats don't show. Angel Reese's defensive rating was actually better with Williams on the floor than with Camila Cardoso. Williams shot near 50% from the field and brought veteran presence to a team that desperately needed it. The question isn't whether she's good enough to be a backup center. The question is whether the Fever can get her close to a minimum contract after that Chicago disaster tanked her value. Because if they can, this becomes one of the smartest moves of the offseason.
But this would be one of my things where I'm like, I don't hate the Fever doing this, but I don't see them doing it. So the Indiana Fever had a player a couple of years ago that is the perfect player, a much better version of Natasha Howard, but it will cost quite a lot of money to keep her, and it's Temi. I still think Temi is the perfect power forward to play beside Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston. We saw it. The lineup of Caitlyn Clark, Lexi Hull, Temi, Aaliyah, and
2 years ago, the lineup of Caitlyn Clark, Lexi Hull, Tammy Fagbin, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell was statistically the best 5-player combination in basketball. Then the Fever let Tammy walk. She went to Golden State, figured out her jump shot, stayed healthy, and became exactly what Indiana needed at the 4. Now she's a restricted free agent. The Valkyries have to keep their entire core together on expansion team money, and the Fever have cap space. This isn't complicated math, but it requires the front office to admit they made a mistake letting her go in the first place.
I have a weird feeling if they flame out on their A option, Natasha Howard on a near max contract is coming back, and I don't think you have a championship. I don't think you can win a championship with Natasha Howard starting and Michaela Timpson as her backup. I don't think you can win a championship with that because there are too many games. Natasha Howard is either brilliant or absolutely terrible. And the problem is that Natasha Howard does not play well with Caitlyn Clark. So if the Fever are planning on winning with Caitlyn Clark, I think...
Here's the uncomfortable truth about Natasha Cloud. She doesn't play well with Caitlyn Clark. The numbers prove it. When they share the floor, spacing collapses, defensive assignments get confused, and the offense stagnates. Cloud is either brilliant or absolutely terrible, and there's no pattern to predict which version shows up. If the Fever are serious about building around Clark, paying Cloud near max money makes 0 sense. But if they flame out on their A-list targets, there's a real possibility they bring her back anyway. And that's how championship windows close before they ever really open.
Either of them can slide in. Aaliyah can slide in at the 4 if she gets the 3 ball. Temi can slide in at the 4, obviously. And then Sophie can slide up to the 4. So for me, that's your perfect rotation. Then you've got KK Timpson as a player. I'm absolutely fine with those 5 players sharing the 4-5. But it's going to cost quite a bit to get Temi out of Golden State. I do think in general that Golden State, because they have to keep basically their whole team. Almost their entire team are free agents. So it's not going to be hard to well, not it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy to keep all their players together if you're...
Costs 3/4 of a max contract to pull from Golden State. That's expensive for a player who was on Indiana's roster 2 seasons ago. But compare that investment to what happens if they don't make it. Natasha Cloud returns, Michaela Timpson remains the backup, and the Fever run back essentially the same roster that got bounced in the first round. The best 5 rotation in the WNBA would be Williams, Ben, and Boston rotating at the 4 and 5, with KK Timpson as the emergency option. That's championship-level depth. That's the kind of frontcourt rotation that can actually compete with the Aces and Liberty. But it requires spending money now, during Clark's rookie contract window, when the Fever have maximum financial flexibility.
Who had a disaster season for Chicago. An absolute disaster season. But it all depends on whether you believe that this is Beck Allen or whether you believe that the Chicago Sky is a shit show. I think it's the latter. I think Beck Allen as a bench option is unbelievable. Is absolutely unbelievable. I genuinely think that Beck Allen could be a 6th player of the year candidate. She can play the 4, she can play the 3. She shoots the shit out of the ball. And people don't realize that. He genuinely
averaged 27 points in a win against Dallas last season, 27 points, when Chicago desperately needed every single one of them. Then Tyler Marsh benched her. Then she came off the bench inconsistently. Then the entire Sky organization collapsed into dysfunction and chaos. For the Phoenix Mercury, Allen averaged 7.4 points per game on 36% from 3 and 42% from the field. Those are solid bench numbers. She was a starter on a Connecticut Sun team that nearly made the finals, playing under Stephanie White, the same Stephanie White who's now coaching Indiana. Allen shoots the ball pure. When she gets open, that shot is money. And she's fighting to save her WNBA career after the Chicago disaster. That makes her a minimum contract candidate with starter upside.
Started the season. Like, if you look at game logs, like, there were games in Chicago, and that was the problem with her in Chicago, was the inconsistency. But if you look at games at the start of the year, she had 7 against the Fever, 11-11, didn't do much in this game, but 13-7-8. Like, that's nearly 10 points a game starting the season. Then had a big lull, and had 27 points in a win against Dallas, in a win where all 27 of those points were pretty much needed. Had a good and okay run for a few games. It was just an inconsistency from Tyler Marsh.
Kennedy Burke shot 41% from 3 and 46% from the field last season. Then she had a terrible playoff performance, and suddenly her value dropped. The New York Liberty have to make difficult decisions about their roster. They can't afford to keep everyone. Burke might be the player they sacrifice to retain Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu's supporting cast. She's a 3 and D wing, which is a weirdly uncommon archetype in the WNBA. She guards positions 2 through 4. She's much quicker laterally than she looks. She did an exceptional job defending Caitlyn Clark in their first matchup. And, because of that bad playoff series, the Fever might get her at a discount rate.
It's not going to be easy for the New York Liberty to afford to keep their team together. And Kennedy Burke might be one of those players they lose. The likes of Kennedy Burke, Izzy Harrison, they might have to pick and choose. If they want to keep Natasha Cloud, maybe they choose Izzy Harrison and say, you know what, we don't need Kennedy Burke. Kennedy Burke's not going to be cheap, because I do think she brings a lot of value in that 3-and-D role, which is a weirdly uncommon archetype, and it's an archetype that you need. She's a better defender than Beck Allen. I'm not going to say she's a better shooter. She's a better wide open shooter than Beck Allen. She's a more consistent shooter.
Letitia Amahir plays hard. She's a dog. She runs hard, jumps, crashes the glass, causes havoc. She doesn't shoot particularly well yet, but she's a much more polished version of Mikayla Timpson. She's got length, can guard multiple positions, can switch, can hedge, plays team basketball. The question is whether the Valkyries are excited about bringing her back or whether they prioritize other pieces. If the Fever can get her on a cheap contract, she becomes a utility bench big who can play positions 3 through 5. Put Caitlyn Clark beside her, and that athleticism becomes even more valuable in transition. So, here's what the Indiana Fever front office needs to understand about this offseason. Caitlyn Clark is on a rookie contract for 3 more years. That's the championship window. That's the time when you have a generational talent making below-market money, which creates cap space to build a contender around her. The worst possible outcome isn't overpaying for Tammy Benlay. The worst outcome is bringing back the same roster that got bounced in the first round, convincing themselves that 1 more year of development will fix the spacing issues and defensive breakdowns that plagued them all season. Elizabeth Williams. At 33 years old, is a smart veteran minimum signing. She's a capable backup center who won't embarrass you in spot minutes. She shoots near 50%, plays solid defense, and knows how to contribute without needing plays called for her. After the Chicago disaster, her value is at rock bottom. That's when smart teams strike. But Williams is a role player. She's not moving the needle. The real decision is whether the Fever go after Tammy Bentley hard enough to actually get her because Golden State is in a bye. They're an expansion team trying to keep their entire core together. They can't pay everyone. If Indiana offers Bentley 3/4 of a max contract, the Valkyries probably can't match without gutting the rest of their roster. Bentley figured out the jump shot. She stayed healthy. She's the perfect power forward to play beside Clark and Boston. The lineup data from 2 years ago proves it. That 5-player combination was the best in basketball. And now Bentley is better than she was then. The Fever let her walk once. Don't make that mistake twice. If they miss on Bentley, if Golden State matches, or she chooses to stay, then the Fever need to pivot immediately to Kennedy Burke or Beck Allen. Both are legitimate rotation players who can contribute right away. Burke is the better defender and more consistent shooter. Allen is the flamethrower who can get nuclear hot but also disappear for stretches. Burke shot 41% from 3 last season on good volume. She guards multiple positions. She's a true 3 and D wing, which is exactly what Indiana needs beside Clark. The playoff disaster dropped her value. The Liberty's cap situation makes her available. This is the kind of opportunity that smart front offices exploit. Allen is riskier, but potentially higher reward. She was a key piece in the trade that sent Jonquil Jones to New York. She was a key piece in the trade that sent Alyssa Thomas to Phoenix. Teams valued her, then Chicago happened, but Stephanie White coached her in Connecticut. White knows what Allen can do in a functional system. If White believes she can resurrect Allen's career, and they can get her near the minimum, that's a bet worth taking. The deeper bench pieces matter, too. Letitia Amahir is a restricted free agent who probably doesn't cost much. She's raw, but she's athletic and plays with energy. She's the kind of player who can give you quality minutes in specific matchups without needing to be a featured part of the offense. But here's the thing about all of these targets. They're only realistic if the Fever are willing to spend money now, not next year. Not when Clark's rookie contract is almost over. Now, this offseason, they have maximum cap flexibility and the ability to build a. The alternative is running it back with Natasha Cloud, hoping the spacing issues magically fix themselves, hoping the defensive breakdowns disappear, hoping that one more year of experience is enough to compete with the Aces and Liberty. That's not a plan. That's hoping. And hope is not a strategy. Championship windows are smaller than people think. The Fever have 3 years of Caitlyn Clark on a rookie contract, 3 years to build a contender before she commands a max deal and the cap flexibility disappears. 3 years before other teams figure out how to defend her, before the league adjusts, before the window starts closing. So the question for the Indiana Fever front office is simple. Are you serious about winning a championship? Or are you serious about running a comfortable, profitable franchise that makes the playoffs and loses in the first round? Because those are different goals. They require different strategies. They require different levels of financial commitment. Elizabeth Williams, Tammy Bentley, Kennedy Burke, Beck Allen, Letitia Amahir. 5 realistic targets, 5 players who make the Fever better, 5 players who fit beside Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston. 5 players who are actually available this offseason. The Fever can afford all of them comfortably if they prioritize winning over saving money. The question is whether they do, because in 3 years, when Clark's rookie contract is over and the championship window has closed, nobody's going to remember that they stayed under the luxury tax. They're only going to remember whether they won.so, which version of the Indiana Fever shows up this offseason. The version that's serious about building a championship roster around a generational talent, or the version that brings back Natasha Cloud, convinces themselves that continuity matters more than fit, and wastes another year of Caitlyn Clark's prime. Let me know in the comments what you think the Fever should do.